We all have this picture in our heads of the person we want to be, right? Healthier, more focused, more present with the people we love. We know what we need to do, but then the day ends and we're left wondering, where did all that time go? So why is it so incredibly hard to do the things we know are good for us? Well, the answer isn't about productivity hacks or getting more done. It's about getting back control over our own attention. And this is where habit expert Nir Eyal comes in with a pretty powerful idea. He says that every single time we give into a distraction, it's a moment we're not living the life we claim we want. So, controlling our attention, it's not just some life hack. It's the fundamental battle for becoming the person we actually want to be. This really is the central puzzle, isn't it? If we know what to do, what is stopping us? For years, we've blamed everything else, our phones, our bosses, our jam-packed schedules. But what if the real source of the problem? What if it's much, much closer to home? Okay, so to become what Nir Eyal calls indestructible, we first have to really understand what distraction is. And the secret, surprisingly, is in understanding its total opposite. So get this, the opposite of distraction isn't focus, it's traction. Now notice how both of those words end in action? That's not an accident. It's a huge reminder that distraction isn't something that just happens to us. It's an action we take. Traction pulls you towards your goals. Distraction pulls you away. And listen, anything can be a distraction. Even checking your work email if what you meant to do right then was play with your kids. So what prompts these actions? Triggers. And we love to blame the external ones, don't we? The pings from our phones, the dings from our laptops. But studies show those things, they only account for about 10% of our distractions. The real culprit is internal triggers. Those uncomfortable feelings we do just about anything to avoid. Let that sink in for a second. A whopping 90% of the time that we get pulled off course, the trigger isn't some notification on our screen. It's a feeling inside of us. And this leads to this really profound realization: all human behavior, every single thing we do, is driven by a desire to escape discomfort. We check social media not just because the app is there, but because we're trying to escape the pain of loneliness or boredom. We procrastinate on that big project to avoid the pain of uncertainty. So what does that mean? It means real-time management isn't about apps or fancy to-do lists. It's about learning to manage our own internal emotional discomfort. So, if the problem starts from within, how in the world do we fight back? Well, Eyal gives us a simple 4-step model to become indistractable. It's a really practical framework for taking back control. Here's the whole model, and it's brilliant because it works from the inside out. First, you master the internal triggers. That's the big one, the 90% problem. Second, you make time for traction by actually designing your day. Third, you hack back all those annoying external triggers. And finally, as a last resort, you create pacts to stop yourself from slipping up. All right, let's start with the absolute most important step, mastering our internal triggers. If we can learn to just sit with those uncomfortable feelings without immediately running for an escape, we've basically won 90% of the battle right there. So before you grab your phone or open a new browser tab, just pause for 1 second. What are you actually feeling in that moment? Is it boredom with what you're doing? A bit of anxiety? Maybe uncertainty about what to do next? Just noticing that feeling, maybe even writing it down, is an incredibly powerful first step. And here's a fantastic technique for this. It's called the 10-minute rule. Instead of telling yourself, no, you can't do that, which, let's be honest, just makes you want it more, you simply tell yourself, not right now. You make a deal with yourself. You can absolutely give in to that distraction, but in 10 minutes. This tiny delay is often enough to let that wave of discomfort pass, and it proves to you that you are in control, not the impulse. Okay, so once we have a few tools to handle that discomfort, we can finally switch from being reactive to being proactive. This whole part is about designing your life in a way that makes distraction less likely to even happen. The big shift here is moving away from a to-do list, that endless list of things you need to do that has no constraints, to a time-boxed calendar. And it starts by defining your values. who do you want to be? Then you turn those values into actual blocks of time on your schedule. You're not just listing things to do anymore, you're planning your inputs, your time and attention to make sure you're actually living the life you say you want. So after we've tackled our internal triggers and planned our time, the next steps are to get rid of those external triggers. Turn off notifications and then set up one last line of defense for when our willpower just isn't enough. And that's where pacts come in. A pact is basically a pre-commitment you make with yourself to put a little bit of friction, a little bit of effort between you and a distraction. Here is a perfect example from Eyal's own life. He noticed that he and his wife were just scrolling on their phones late at night, and it was hurting their sleep and their relationship. So he made an effort pact. He went out and bought a cheap outlet timer from the hardware store and plugged his internet router into it. Now, every single night at 10 p.m., the internet just turns off. Could he go and turn it back on? Yeah, of course. But that tiny bit of extra effort is usually enough to make him stop and stick to his original plan. Now, this framework, this idea of managing internal discomfort and designing your environment, it's not just for productivity. Eyal takes these exact same principles and applies them to one of the most talked about and sometimes controversial topics today, ADHD. Eyal points to this pretty jarring data as a reason to ask some tough questions. He wonders why children in the United States are diagnosed with ADHD at 10 times the rate of kids in Europe. It suggests that there might be cultural factors, maybe even incentives in our systems that could be contributing to overdiagnosis. Now, let's be super clear. Eyal is not saying ADHD isn't a very real and sometimes debilitating condition. It absolutely is for many people, but he does advocate for what he calls a skills before pills approach. He's worried that we're teaching a whole generation that the solution to their problems comes from a pill bottle without first teaching them the behavioral skills, like the ones in this very model, that can help them manage their own attention. And this leads to what he thinks is a really dangerous trap when a diagnosis becomes an identity. He argues there's a huge difference between saying, I have a condition that can be treated, and saying I am ADHD. The first one is empowering, but the second one, that can become a self-limiting belief. It can discourage people from even trying to learn new skills because they just believe their challenges are a fixed part of who they are. So in the end, the entire journey to becoming indistractable really starts with this one simple question. The next time you feel that pull, that urge to check your phone or open a new tab, don't just give in. Just pause and ask yourself, what discomfort am I trying to escape from right now? Answering that question, that's the first step to taking back your attention and ultimately taking back your life.